Hi everyone, my name is Danielle Jacob and I'm the founder of Danny J's. Today we're just going to make some chocolate for a Kit Kat recipe. I have to confess the chocolate recipe that I'm using today is not mine. It's actually Brittany Angell's, Brittanyangell. I highly recommend everybody who has some allergies or just a paleo diet or any of that. Look her up. She's really great. I use her recipes a lot. So right now I just have a double boiler going. I have a, which is basically just a pot of boiling water and something that you can put over that'll get hot. And while we're waiting for that to heat up, the wafers, if you will, in our Kit Kats, I'm just going to be using some rice Chex. I'm going to crush these up a little. If you don't want yours crushed, you don't have to. And how crushed you crush them is completely up to you. I'm actually using a meat tenderizer to crush them. I find meat tenderizers do a really good job. So, so some of mine are smaller, some are bigger, and that's just how I want mine. The other ingredients we're going to be using today are cocoa powder, unsweetened. We're going to be using some powdered sugar, which I've powdered myself. I personally am allergic to sugar, and so I like to use things like stevia or Splenda or sugar alcohols, which typically don't come in powdered sugar. I have a quick how-to video on our YouTube channel to powder sugar, but basically just take your sugar, put it into a coffee grinder or high-powered blender. I use a Angell, and you just blend it for a little bit, and it's almost instantly powder. We're going to be using some raw cacao butter. I just ordered mine from Amazon, and I got it for surprisingly cheap. Amazon has great shipping. If you've ever used them, I'm sure you know. They give you all your stuff back quickly, and we're going to use a couple pinches of salt. I'm just going to get my salt real fast. Alright, so now our pan is probably mildly hot, so we're going to get out our measuring cup, which I forgot to get. I'm sorry, my bad. Get my measuring cup. We're basically just going to be using the standard 1 cup measure today. And so, we want about so when melted 3/4 cup is going to be about half a cup. I want a little more than half a cup melted. So I have about when this is all melted, it's going to be about a cup of melted cocoa butter, which is what I want, the amount I want for this recipe. And I'm going to get out something just to my whisk, just to simply stir as it melts. And this might take a little while to melt. So we're also going to use equal parts cocoa butter. Once this is all melted, we're going to use equal parts powder. I'm sorry, not butter, powder. So we're going to need about a cup of this. So I'm going to go ahead and pour it. I have made this chocolate recipe before. It's not really a milk chocolate. It's more of a dark chocolate, but it's still really good. And the key is, the first time I made it, I was like, is powdered sugar really all that important? Yes. The answer it is. It's very important. If you don't have the powdered sugar, your chocolate is going to be extremely grainy, which tastes fine, but texturally it's not very pleasing. So there's my cocoa powder. Alright, the chips are about halfway melted, which is good. They're coming along fine. Just want them to be able to melt a little more. As they're melting, the pot, what I'm using today is I'm just going to be putting our Kit Kats and the chocolate and layering them in a simple glass. Really, I use it to bake cakes. So we're just going to be putting it in that, very simple. I want to do about a layer of chocolate, some wafers, a thin layer of chocolate, some wafers, and then a layer of chocolate, just like they do in Kit Kats. And we'll see how it tastes. I hope it's really good. So as I said, this is a double boiler, and just below it there's some boiling water. It doesn't take that much water, so don't fill it all the way up, because when you put this in, the water's going to get displaced, and so then it's going to rise even more. And then when it boils, it'll boil over if you have too much, and that's really not good, because if you're like me and you're using a gas stove, that water could put out your fire, which we don't really want. We want our fire to stay on while we're cooking. Today I'm also using some butter. I like to use Earth Balance. It's a vegan butter. They also have a soy-free version of their vegan butter, so it's really great if you have any kind of allergies. And we're just going to use that to lightly grease the outside of our pan, because some non-stick sprays actually do contain soy. And so we're just going to use that to grease the outside of our pan, so that whenever we allow our Kit Kats to sit, they don't stick to the pan and crack and disform whenever we're trying to take them out. Our cocoa butter is almost completely melted. And see, this is exactly what I was talking about. See the edges here? It's boiling a lot. I didn't even put that much water in mine, but it's still going to boil a lot, because it's boiling water and it doesn't have anywhere to go, so it's going to fry and come out the edges. Which, yay, it's boiling, it's going to get really hot, which is exactly what we want for this, but I don't want it to boil over, because as I said, I'm using flames and I don't want it to put on the flame. Alright, so our cocoa butter we just have a few stray pieces left that are refusing to melt. So I'll wait for that to melt. I'm going to go get a paper towel that's a little damp and clean up my cocoa powder mess. Clean workstation is a happy workstation. So as I said, this is not my chocolate recipe. I'm actually getting it from a different source. So I just, full disclaimer, it is not my chocolate recipe. I'm using Brittany Angell's chocolate recipe from my Kit Kat recipe. So I don't want there to be any confusion there at all whatsoever. It's not my recipe. It's a good recipe though. I love it, and I love most of her recipes. She's actually really good. She does a lot of different recipes, sugar-free, dairy-free, vegan, gluten-free, wheat-free, paleo, everything. Alright, so now that our chocolate's mostly melted, we're going to add in our cocoa powder. It's about, as I said, it's about equal cups. So 1 cup cocoa powder for 1 cup of cocoa butter. We're going to stir that in real fast. Oh, the fun of it being a double boiler. It's going to spin as I stir. we're going to add about 12 tablespoons of the powdered sugar that I powdered earlier. And trust me, guys, don't just be like, oh, it's going to be okay if I just use regular sugar. It's not. You're gonna have a textural issue. Alright, so here we go. One that's less sweet, you know, just go ahead and go less. If you want more sweet, add more. If you want, you know, just about as sweet as you think it should be. Really, it's up to you. So now we're gonna add about my fire went up. We're gonna add about 2 pinches of salt. Honestly, I don't know what the salt is for, but she said add salt, so I'm just following her recipe. We've got 1 pinch and 2 pinches. And I'm going to turn off my fire now. And we're just going to stir this all together. Just try and make it blend and all nicely. Like, I'm going to marry these products together. Now, even if you home make the powdered sugar, there's no promise that all the sugar that you put in there is going to be completely powdered. So you might still have a few textural issues, so if you can, go and go with the regular powdered sugar, but if you just don't have it on you and just really want to make this, but don't want to go to the store, go ahead and just powder your own sugar. It's really awesome. It's really handy if you're allergic or have an intolerance to sugar like I do. Alright, so now that we've kind of married these products together, as I said, you know, it's still a little grainy, but that's because I couldn't do that. So I'm going to just reach over here real fast and get a pot holder, and we're going to pour just a little bit into here. So just a little bit. Oh, I almost forgot a very important step, which is to grease my pan, because if I don't grease my pan, then my Kit Kats are going to stick, and I don't want that. So just take a little bit of butter. It really doesn't take much. Just grease the pan. Almost like, have you ever oiled your pan and then floured it for baking a cake? Almost like that. Except, we're not going to put any flour in our cake pan. So now that I have my cake pan all greased, now I'm going to pour in my chocolate. So, just pour my chocolate in here. I couldn't tell you exactly how big my pan I'm using is. I'd have to look. Probably should have gotten that before I started, but mistakes of the rookie, you know? So, alright. We're going to spread that to all corners. Alright, so now that it's there, I'm going to get out some of my Chex, and this is going to be like the center wafer part of the Kit Kats. I'm just going to put them on here. Alright, so now that I've got wafers, I'm going to add just another thin layer of chocolate just to go over them. Just kind of like glaze them, if you will. Okay. So now that I've got that, it was looking really good, guys. We're going to put our last layer of wafer over. I call it a wafer, it's really rice Chex. I use rice Chex because it's naturally gluten-free, and if you're on a low residue diet, like I am as well, you can't have corn. And so I use the rice Chex because it avoids the low residue diet, and it's still gluten-free. You know, it's free of all those allergies. So it's really great for someone like me who has multiple allergies and is on a low residue diet. So now we're just going to pour the rest of our chocolate in. Oh, this is exciting. Now, this may not set or look exactly like a Kit Kat, but it should, keyword here is should, taste similar to, you know, it's going to have the crunch, it's going to have the chocolate, so, yeah. So now, I'm going to take you off my little stand, and I'm going to show you what mine looks like, just so you can have a visual. So, here's what mine looks like currently. And you can see that not all of my wafers are rice Chex is covered, but that's okay. That's the whole point of it being homemade. Alright, so, and that's my recipe for Chex. Now we're just going to let it set and dive in and eat it later. So if you'd like this recipe, you can get more like it. You can follow us on YouTube. I'm going to try and put out a video once a month on a new allergen-friendly recipe. Now I say allergen-friendly just because they're going to be free the top 8 and a few others just so that I can eat them and try them as well, because I love to eat as much as I love to cook. And you can also follow us like me on Facebook. The link is below. And you can also follow me on Pinterest. The link is also below if you just want the recipes for them. I am working on a website, so soon you'll be able to go to our website and have all the videos and the recipes there for you, and a way to contact me. For now, I'm available through Facebook, and you can message me anytime you'd like if there's a recipe you want me to do, or a question, or anything you're just really curious on how to do, like for the low residue diet, like vegetables have to be cooked in a certain way, anything with skins and that kind of thing. So if you have any of those questions, please feel free to email me. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.